2 years ago, I gave up the power of being a CEO to be part of a self-managed team. And it all started with a book called Reinventing Organizations by Frederick Laloux. Now, I read a lot of books, but this book was so powerful, it almost made me shake. It inspired me that there's a new way of working without hierarchy, without command and control, and that the leading organizations of the future will have 3 things in common: bringing your whole self to work, a focus on purpose, and self-management. And I wanted to make that change and for us to evolve as a team. Now, at that time, I was CEO of a health and care consultancy organization called HSA. I thought we were already a great team. I thought we had the whole person to work nailed. I thought we were clear about our purpose, our why. Do I sound smug? I was. I thought it was like adding an app, but in reality, it was changing the whole operating system. Now, it might be hard to imagine that a team can organize itself without a boss, and even more extraordinary that that kind of working could lead to you being happier and more fulfilled at work. But that's been my experience. I'm happier, I have deeper relationships with my colleagues, I'm more productive, and I'm more creative. And according to statistics, I'm unusual too. Gallup tells us that only 1 in 10 people in the workplace is engaged. So sat with your colleagues now, if you sat with 9 other people, only 1 of you will be engaged and happy at work, either now or in the future. But it's more than that. It's about health as well. I was shocked to read that the workplace is literally killing us. In the US, the workplace is the 5th leading cause of death. Can you believe it? The 5th leading cause of death. And Professor Jeffrey Pfeffer of Stanford University demonstrates that the workplace is the largest cause of stress, that stress leads to chronic disease, and chronic disease is part of our spiraling health and care costs. Now, nap rooms and yoga classes can't fix this. Something much more fundamental has to change. And I think that self-management could be part of this, helping us move from harm to happiness and from stress to satisfaction. So in the next few minutes, I'd like to share with you my world of self-management and invite you to consider whether this could be part of your future. I want to share with you 3 features of self-managed teams: how you organize yourself without a manager, how you hold each other to account, and what it really means to bring the whole self to work. So let's start with the first one. How do you organize yourself without a manager? Now, Daniel Pink says that the secret to high performance and satisfaction at work is meeting our deeply human need to control our own lives. And that means having control over task and time, where you work, when you work, and how you work. And none of this was possible for Becky. Becky left university with a degree in theology, but her most pressing need was to earn some money. So she applied for every job she could and took the first one that she was offered as a picker and a van driver for a distribution centre. So you order goods online, and Becky would go to the shelf. She'd take the goods off the shelf and put it on a trolley. She'd take the trolley down to the packing area, put it in the box, put a label on the box, and put it in the van. It was a miserable way to work, she says. Now, Becky's part of a self-managing team. She's part of a well-being team because I was so excited about self-management. I wanted to see how we could make it part of health and care and set up well-being teams, which are small neighbourhood teams with the purpose of supporting older people or disabled people in their own homes and to be part of communities. So in Becky's team, there's no manager. Instead, she has a coach. And what the coach does is support the team to take up different roles. So there are 5 different roles in Becky's team, as you can see here. So everybody shares the role of supporting people in the community, but they take one of these roles too. And Becky chose the role of recruitment coordinator because she thought it'd be the best fit for her strengths and give her opportunities to develop and grow. Now, in typical workplaces, you have no control over recruitment or who joins you in your team. But in well-being teams, in self-managing teams, that's part of the decision the team's part of. Now, well-being teams work with their heads, heart, and hands. So their recruitment process is value-based because you can teach the work of the hands, but you need to find people with a heart for this work who resonate with its purpose. So in the value-based process that Becky uses, it doesn't start with CVs or end with interviews. It's about connection and communication and scenarios and exercises. And Becky's responsible for coordinating that and bringing the information together and supporting the team to make that decision. She says she feels trusted to be part of important decisions in the team, is growing and developing as a person, and is happier at work. Now, you might be thinking that's all very well, but what happens when things go wrong? What happens when people aren't doing the work that they should do? So the second feature of a self-managing team is how you hold each other to account. So please imagine for a minute that you work, that every week after work, you go out for a drink with your colleagues and everybody buys around. And somebody new joins your team and comes out with you, and they don't buy around. And the next week you go out for a drink again, and the person doesn't buy around again. Or in your shared house, there's somebody who never does the washing up, always leaves their cups in the sink. How do you feel? Annoyed? Irritated? Cross? And what would you do? When I ask people this, most people give me a version of moan about them behind their back. Some people's versions of moan about them behind their back include expletives, because it's hard to have some difficult conversations. It's hard to hold people to account. Or to use Brené Brown's words, we choose comfort over courage. Now, in a self-managing team, we've got different ways to try and address that. And the first is about having team agreements, because you can't hold somebody to account unless you know what you're committing to together, what you can expect from each other. So in Becky's team, there are clear agreements about how they're going to work together that are explicit, recorded, shared, and reviewed. But how do we support Becky to have difficult conversations? Well, these people help. So what helps Becky is both people and processes. So in this photo, you can see Michelle, the team coach, and Jodie, Becky's buddy. And everyone in the team has a buddy, and the role of the buddy is both support and challenge. So if Becky went up to Jodie and was moaning about somebody not doing the washing up, Becky would say to her, how do you want to address this? Do you want to go and have the conversation directly with the person, or are you going to raise it at the team meeting? Because in self-managed teams, meetings are different. There's an expectation that you raise and address tensions so that things are dealt with really early. Or if Michelle, the team coach, had seen lots of washing up and sensed some tensions around that, she'd hold a mirror up to the team and say, are you seeing this? What do you want to do about it? Or the third reason, or the third way this could happen, is through a person-centered team review. So this is a regular review where the team comes together to look at what's working and not working, about how we're living our purpose, living our values, and keeping our agreements. So those are a range of different ways that make it more likely that instead of a boss holding you to account, that with your team colleagues, you can do that together. And the third feature of self-managing teams that I'd like to share with you underpins all of this. It's bringing the whole self to work. Now, when Google were looking for the secret magic ingredients of high-performance team in the Aristotle project, they were surprised at the findings. Because it's not team leadership, and it's not team composition, and it's not even the team purpose that made the biggest difference. It was psychological safety. Do you feel safe with your colleagues? Are you able to show up and be seen? Are you able to be vulnerable with the people you work with? That was the most important thing. And this has also been shown at the London Business School, that if you're able to show up with your colleagues, Dan Cable shows us, you're more likely to stay in your role and customers will be happier. Now with Becky, bringing the whole person to work started at recruitment. Instead of a CV, she was invited to bring a one-page profile to the recruitment process. Now a one-page profile is a summary of who you are on one page. It talks about what people appreciate about you, what matters to you, and what good support looks like for you at work. So if you had my one-page profile in front of you now, you'd know that my partner's called Andy, and I have 3 daughters, Ellie, Laura, and Kate. You'd know I've got 3 hens, but they don't have names, that I read a lot, and I've probably got about 4 books on the go at any one time, that I'm useless at small talk, I'm really bad at it, and I've got a desire for an occasional single malt too. But you'd also learn in the To Be Successful in Supporting Me that I hate playing telephone tag. So if we need to have a conversation, let's not phone and leave a message, or phone and leave a message. Please, let's arrange a time to talk. And also that I'm really bad at picking up hints. So if I've upset you in any way, please tell me, and tell me directly and immediately. So the first way that Becky was encouraged to bring a whole self to work was through a one-page profile. And the second way was on her very first day at work. So Michelle, the team coach, got the new team together, so Becky and her 9 colleagues. And on the board, Michelle put a colourful graphic of her work timeline, starting from her first Saturday job to the role she has now. And it had spaces for describing your hobbies, your interests, your skills, and your work aspirations, and your life aspirations. She then gave a copy of a template to everybody in the room, and there was hush while people spent 20 minutes filling it out. And then they're invited to put it on the wall, and in 3 minutes, each person gave a summary of some of the highlights from their work experience so far, some of their skills and talents, interests and aspirations. And here's Becky sharing hers. And the final way, that in the first week of Becky's work, she was invited to do a values profile. And the values profile tells you about the top 10 values, your unique signature values, your priority values, and what this can mean in the workplace. Because we know when we consciously connect people's values to their work, you're more able to turn up authentically and create trust with the team. So these are different ways where people can show up and be seen at work, bringing your whole self to work. The statistics that I gave you earlier were from Professor Jeffrey Pfeffer of Stanford University, from his book Dying for a Paycheck, where he shows the staggering impact of stress at work and how it's the biggest cause of stress. But he doesn't leave us without hope. He says if we want to create healthy workplaces, we need to have 2 things in place. The first is control and autonomy at work, and the second is social support. What I've seen from Becky, and what I've experienced myself and heard from others, makes me believe that self-management is a way for us to have more autonomy and more joy at work, and more connections with the people that we work with. It's not about adding an app. It's not a one-page profile here, or a life history there, or a values map here. It's a different way to show up and work together, a different way to think about work all together. And I believe that can help us move from harm to happiness, from stress to satisfaction, have more freedom and control at work. And I'm committing to seeing how we can make this difference in health and care. And I invite you to consider whether this could be part of your future of work as well. Thank you.